Hey there, parents. This is Adrienne Meldrum, owner of Math for Middles. Today I wanted to do a short video with you and talk about bad attitudes to gratitude and how we can do that. I'm going to share 5 easy ways to encourage thankfulness in teens. So let's go ahead and jump into this slide share. I wanted to talk to you about this because this last fall I took a class here in my community about parenting, and one of the biggest lessons that just impacted my entire family was the one on gratitude. And so I thought I would share the tips and takeaways that I've learned with you today. So let's go ahead and jump in and talk about that. One of the very first things she said is gratitude is more than thank you. Gratitude is a way of life, and it's the filter in which you see your life's experiences. So if you're a person that's kind of prone to thinking of the negative, adding in more gratitude in your life can really alter the way you're experiencing life right now. And when gratitude is present, there's more respect. And I tell you what, I feel like the world really could use more respect right now. And when there's more respect, you respect people and property, and you have a desire to help others, and there's just more happiness. Gratitude can affect all of those things. So let's jump in and talk about all of that in more detail. So first of all, I just wanted to tell you about, for me, we went to the Outer Banks in North Carolina this fall, my husband and I did, and I was just so amazed by sunrises over the ocean because I'm a West Coast person. I've never been, to the East Coast and watched the sunrise over the ocean, and that was one of the most magical things I think I've ever seen in my life. It was just such a blessing. And this gratitude, it energizes life. It makes things easier, and it brings happiness no matter what the circumstance is. And I learned that gratitude and discouragement are hard to feel at the same time. And gratitude helps my children to be more cooperative and happy. And it turns out that the old adage to count your blessings is a powerful truth. And one of my favorite reasons to work on gratitude is that it directly affects our thoughts, which in turn affect our feelings. And so before I move into the tips, I want you to take a moment and ponder these questions. Do I have a thankful heart? Do I focus on blessings or hardship the most? Does my family know what I'm grateful for because I tell them? And do I radiate joy because of my grateful heart? And I got to say, some of those questions I answered no a few months ago. And so I want you to have more gratitude in your home because it affects everybody, and especially those teenagers. So let's look at the levels of gratitude. This was so awesome and really helped me build a framework around how I can support my family. So at the very tippy top, the very first level of gratitude, we just work on expressing it. We're telling other people that we're thankful, and maybe you're writing notes of gratitude. You're expressing it. That's good. But a deeper, more meaningful level of gratitude is to act. How do you show your gratitude? This kind of changes your behavior, and you work toward treating people and possessions differently because of your gratitude. And then the third level is live. You choose to live in a spirit of gratitude. It comes naturally and becomes your default attitude. And we exercise it on a daily basis. This is the ultimate goal. This is where we want our children to be. This is where I want to be. But we have to begin with the most simple steps first, which is just expressing it. So let's talk about that next. So level 1, express it. So this effort level, this tip is easy. These are not hard to implement. I started doing this with my family in October, 5 minutes. It was super easy. So think of it this way, expressing gratitude, 5 minutes around the dinner table. Everyone mentions one thing they're grateful for. It's not very hard, right? And when I first started doing this, I was thinking, I don't know that this will have that big of an impact on our family, but it really did. At first, it was really hard for my youngest, who's 8, to find something to say he's thankful for because he has a default to the negative. And he knew I wasn't going to give up. And so we would go around the table, we'd all mention things we're thankful for, and we'd come back to him, and he'd finally have something he's thankful for. But the interesting thing now is that he's the one that can list the most, and he loves this part of the day to talk about it. The other thing you could do is if you are like us, and sometimes you're not even at the dinner table together, right? You're running around, you're super busy. You can do it while you're driving to practices or games and just talk about it in the car. The one thing that really surprised me is that I wouldn't even be bringing it up, and my kids would be the ones mentioning it out loud. Hey, Mom, I'm so grateful today that we got out of school early. Or, hey, Mom, I'm so glad it's raining today and not snowing. We've been saying that one a lot here in Boise. And then another time you could squeeze it in is right before bedtime. And I find that it really calms your spirit down, makes you feel peaceful right before you go to sleep. And this is actually, we've decided as a family, this is where we like to do it. Now, we're Christian, and so we spend time in prayer each night as a family. And so before we pray, we mention all the things we're grateful for. Everyone goes around. And then whoever's the designated person to say our family prayer, they mention those things in their prayer. And I love how it's changed our whole prayer together. No more do we have these like really repetitive, barely thinking prayers. Now we have these deeper meaning prayers, and it's really been powerful. And we've been working on this since October. So I've loved that. And then I decided it's time to kick it up a notch. We're going to do this a little bit more in depth and more moderately. The effort's a little bit harder. So now we're writing letters to people to express gratitude. And no one in my family loves writing. Nobody does. But we're trying really hard to express our gratitude to our grandparents, to teachers and tutors and coaches in our lives. And another thing we do that we just recently started was spending 10 minutes writing in a gratitude journal. Now this one's really hard, but I'm determined to find a way to write it because I know as an educator, it's really important to spend time writing these things. I know that there's connections being made in the brain when I'm writing, and so writing down what we're grateful for can really be impactful. And then, this is for teenagers specifically, mentioning to peers that you're thankful for them. Now, just the other day, my son, who's 14, he found himself in a frustrating situation. He realized he didn't take any notes on how to do his Spanish homework, and he was, flustered. And so we started texting some people in his class, and 2 girls responded and sent a page of their notes over to him so that he could finish the homework assignment. The next day, I asked him how that went, and he said, oh, it was great. I took better notes this time, just like the girls that shared their notes. And then I asked him, did you tell those girls thank you? No, I didn't tell them thank you. And so I challenged him the next day to go and tell them that, that you're thankful for them. I mean, think about how awkward that was for a 14-year-old boy to walk up to 2 girls and say, thanks for sharing your notes with me. It's hard, right? He doesn't want them to get the impression that he likes them romantically or that he's flirting or anything, but he did it. The next day he told me, I had told them thank you. So it's hard. That's moderately difficult for a teenager to do, but it's possible. And so I wanted to talk quickly about the journal. Anytime I can include humor in my home, I try to, because I've got a bunch of boys, and it just makes home a happier place. So this year I got it for the new year, and this was because we're working on that, writing it down in a gratitude journal. It's called the Okay, Fine, I'm Grateful Journal. And my boys thought it was hilarious. So I'll read you the subtitle underneath, which is the longest run-on sentence I think I've ever seen in my life. But this is made by Knock Knock, and you can get it on Amazon or knockknock.com. I'll have a link below in the notes here. Okay, so here's the title, the subtitle. A journal to catapult me from my default position of griping and negativity to the long resisted stance of counting my blessings, because it turns out that focusing on the positive actually might be better for my mind, body, and spirit, in no small part because unhappiness is the gap between expectations and reality. So even though this whole gratitude thing feels like a bandwagon and on the woo-woo train, the fact is that deep down I'm ready to start looking at the roses rather than the thorns, and if you absolutely force me to admit it, I will say that in all actuality, I do have very much to be grateful for. My boys love that. And so on the inside pages, there's quotes about gratitude and looking at the bright side of things. And then there's the research about why gratitude is so powerful and how it really is helping people to lead better lives. Okay, next level. The second level is to act. And the effort level here is moderate to difficult depending on what it is. And so the first thing I learned from this class is that we have to adjust our mindset. And this one is difficult. Difficult. So if I'm truly thankful for whatever, fill in the blank, what can I do to show that gratitude? So my kids and I were talking about this. If I'm truly thankful for my bed, what can I do to show that gratitude? They talked about, oh, I could make it. I could wash the sheets every once in a while. You can tell I have boys, right? Things just smell funkier here. So we were talking about things like that. So if I'm truly thankful for my car that I drive in every day, how do I show that? Well, I could take better care of it. I could take it into the mechanic shop and get it serviced. I could make sure if you do car payments, that I'm paying my car payments on time so that I can continue to enjoy that blessing. We'll take it to get washed, those kind of things. If I'm truly thankful for my husband, how do I show that gratitude? I speak to him with respect. I show affection to him. I spend time with him. I give him my undivided attention. Do you see how that you have to change your mindset? And that one's really difficult. And as a family, we were doing okay at this one for a little while, for a few weeks, but we've struggled to maintain it. It's more difficult to maintain it. The other thing that was really surprising in this class is she talked about how teaching manners, this is part of gratitude. And that floored me. And she said, she's a mother of 10 and she knows, she's experienced it, that her kids are more grateful when they have their manners in place. And so we could teach, the real basics. We could teach proper table manners. We could use real plates and set the table properly. We could, if you're like us, you wait to pray and you're all together before you pray and eat. And then you use your napkins. You actually put them in your lap. You don't wipe your hands on your shirt. You ask people to pass with manners, pass the food. You don't talk with your mouth full. You stay at the table. You have a discussion. You ask if you can be excused if you're the child. You pick the dishes up and take them to the sink and take other people's dishes as a sign of gratitude for them and respect. You say please and thank you. And so she talked about, really basic, start at the dinner table. Other ones she mentioned was when your children are speaking to adults, have them look them in the eyes, reach out and shake their hand. When they're speaking, try not to spin around and jump up and down, like give them full attention, which was crazy. She mentioned like no spinning around on the floor, or crawling, or tugging on people's arms. That's not appropriate. We should treat other adults with respect. She talked about telephone manners and cell phone etiquette and walking your kids through how to do those. And she was a huge proponent, this is lost, I think, in our society, about talking to adults like teachers with their proper name. We don't call your school teacher Katie. Her name is, Mrs. Jones. We use the proper terminology. So you don't call your coach Joe, he's Coach, gosh, I can't think of a name, Coach Jones. We'll just go with that. So you try to use proper titles. And then she talked about how important it is to write thank you letters and not interrupt people, and to teach your children to wait when you're on the phone. Don't let them interrupt you. Make sure that they understand, and maybe that you come up with some sort of signal that they need to talk to you, and you verbally, not verbally acknowledge, but acknowledge that they need you, and you be respectful of their time and don't stay on the phone for yet another hour. So, and my favorite one that she teaches is being on time. You must be on time. That's a manner. And so these things are hard to do. So we started at the dinner table and we really struggled to figure out how to make the manners things happen. So I ended up buying this book called How Rude: The Teen Guide to Good Manners, Proper Behavior, and Not Grossing People Out. Because I realized that I have some manners that are maybe not so good that I'm passing on to my children. And so I bought this book and I started flipping through it, and it covers everything. One item that I was like, wow, this book is really in depth. It talked about how do you introduce a same-sex couple, someone that's living like that. How do I introduce them? They're your friends. And how do you introduce this married couple to other people? And I thought that was really interesting. I hadn't even thought about how am I going to do that. I haven't had to do that yet, and am I prepared to do something like that? Another super easy thing to do, we added this to our dinner table, is the same author of How Rude. There was How Rude in a jar, and there are these little prompt cards. And so one of them that we did the other night was how do you introduce esteemed guests, people that are coming to the party. And so each of us took on like fancy people, like the Queen of England, the Pope, all this stuff. And we all practiced introducing each other to others. And that's something that most kids don't know how to do. And we were cracking up. I mean, it was really fun, and it's difficult to do, but using that little jar helps me be a little more intentional about teaching these manners. Okay, now this was huge for me, huge. You have to be careful that when you're having people express gratitude, that they don't finish the sentence with a yeah, but. So we diminish our gratitude when we express gratitude followed by but, and then we add in regret or a desire for a different outcome. So for example, I'm so grateful for my house. I really love it, but I wish that, the railing was repaired and that the exterior was blue. I just, knocked out all of the gratitude part. I get nothing out of a phrase like that. It's a polite way of whining. And that's a really important thing to talk about to your kids. And because I'm a math teacher, I think of it in a couple different ways. Let me go back to this. So with this, we have gratitude, you express it, but then I add in this but, and I get zero benefit from that. It's not helpful to anyone, and it's not helpful to you. And so we got to talk to our kids about that, about true gratitude is expressed by itself, and regret should never be added on as an appendage to that. Just, really difficult to do. Okay, let's go back here, and we're going to end with level 3, which is to live in gratitude daily. And obviously the effort level here is moderate to difficult, depending on your predisposed way. But the first thing you're going to do is you're going to live to serve others. You actively seek to help others, and you can avoid magnification of small imperfections. When we nitpick ourselves apart, we are showing that we are ungrateful for what we have. When I pick myself apart for my weight, I'm showing myself that I'm really not grateful for this body that gets me from A to B. And so we have to be careful about that. And so when we're living in gratitude daily, we're avoiding the magnification of our small imperfections. We can also live in gratitude by developing new talents and then sharing them with others. And then we can enjoy the talents of others and tell them thank you and learn from the talents of others. These are all really important things to be doing. And I love it. These things have really changed our home. I'm finding that we're kinder and softer to each other. Our hardships are less so. Anyway, so I really want to challenge you to strive to live in gratitude. And the first thing you're going to do tonight is talk about gratitude with your family. You're going to express what you're grateful for and consistently talk about things you're grateful for over the next month. Avoid adding but to your expressions of gratitude. And then I would love to hear how it's going. Will you report back in the comments below and tell me how it's changing your teenager's attitude? I know that for us, it's completely morphing our kids and causing them to be more patient with each other, patient with their teachers and their peers. Gratitude and counting blessings are one of the biggest things that we should be working on in our families. It will change your home and it will change the world. So I will have over on the website, it's going to be at mathformiddles.com/episode 13. This is also a podcast episode. I'll have notes here for you and links to some of the resources I shared, and you'll also be able to look at the slides. And I'll have all of that over there on the website. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will talk to you guys again soon.